The democracy for the citizen.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We apologize for that. You're watching TV47 Breakfast. Being a Thursday, we talk matters health. And today being, of course, this week being World Breastfeeding Week, that is what we're shining the spotlight on this morning. With me in studio is Dr. Sarah Njeri Maitho. She is a general practitioner and she'll be walking us through World Breastfeeding Day, a week, and is observed every year from the 1st to 7th of August to raise awareness about the importance of breastfeeding for the health and well-being of both babies and mothers. So we'll be getting deeper into that just to understand how exclusive breastfeeding is also important to the mother just as much as it's important to the baby, and how we are doing as far as exclusive breastfeeding is concerned in Kenya. Are we meeting the global recommended target of exclusive breastfeeding, that is 70%? Are we there yet? And if not, where are the gaps and what do we need to do as a nation to get to this target? So do interact with us through our socials, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube. Or next is TV47 Digital. You can tag me at Annie_Odida. Use the hashtag TV47 Breakfast. You can call in live if you have a question for Daktari Sarah here. She'll be happy to answer. Karibu sana to studio.
Thank you.
You're well?
I'm well.
Great. Yeah. Let's start from that point. World Breastfeeding Week, right? Why do you think this week is important for us to commemorate breastfeeding and especially exclusive breastfeeding?
I think there's a gap in knowledge of breastfeeding, especially with, I mean, when you think about Kenya with the number of children that are being delivered, we need a lot of knowledge for women to know how to properly breastfeed. And it's easy to assume that it's a natural kind of knowledge that people have and mothers can pass on to their children when they have, like, let's say grandmothers can pass on to their daughters when they get babies. But actually there's a gap in the knowledge of breastfeeding.
Speaking of gaps, maybe you can walk us through the rates, you know, because I was reading about it, and according to the Kenya Demographic and Health Survey, that the exclusive breastfeeding rate has stagnated at around, 60% rather than continuing to improve. Then really, aside from the gap that you say, information gap, then why are we seeing a stagnation for such a long time, especially between 2003 to 2022? That's a long time, over a decade. So why are we seeing that kind of stagnation?
I think the reason for that is that mothers are still not accessing the education that is required for breastfeeding. I think that hospitals are trying, for women who deliver in hospitals, there's an effort by the hospitals to try and educate mothers on how to breastfeed, how long they should breastfeed, but you find that still, maybe because of some social cultural myths, misconceptions, or even knowledge passed on from in traditionally or in society, then women are not complying with what is needed for exclusive breastfeeding until 6 months of age, which is the recommended time.
Now that you mentioned myths and misconceptions, let's just start from that point so that we don't overpass it. So what are some of these myths and misconceptions around exclusive breastfeeding that you've encountered in your line of practice?
One of them is, and I think the most important one, is that people tend to believe that breast milk is not sufficient for a baby. They think that maybe the baby is not having sufficient nutrients coming from the breast milk. And you find that it's strange for some women to believe, for them it's strange to think that you could actually be feeding on milk only until 6 months of age. And I think that it's at maybe 3 months you should start introducing things like porridge or fruits.
At 3 months?
Yeah, you find some people don't believe that breast milk is sufficient. They think, I mean, if you think about, maybe they think of it in terms of an adult feeding on milk only, and it seems bizarre. So to them, doing breast milk alone doesn't seem like it's the right way to do things, or it's efficient. Yeah. So what is needed is that women need to understand that breast milk is actually sufficient. It contains all the macro and micronutrients that are sufficient for a baby at that age. it has energy, they have protein, fat, it has vitamins, minerals, and more than that, that's sufficient for a baby. Yeah.
What are the dangers of introducing something like porridge in 3 months of exclusive breastfeeding? So
one of the things that it's not even a complete meal. Something like porridge is purely starch, as compared to breast milk, which contains protein, fat, which is necessary for the growth and development of a baby. In addition to that, breast milk contains some immune factors like antibodies that are protective against disease. You won't find that with porridge. Then again, when preparing porridge, you need to be very conscious about cleanliness. It's not breast milk is contamination free because it's coming straight from the breast. As compared to porridge, you'll have contamination along the way, and maintaining the kind of, let's say, sterility that you'd find with breast milk is difficult.
How about water?
Even water, same thing. That it's not necessary, first of all, because breast milk is actually about 80% water. So breast milk does quench the thirst of a baby, and if a baby is thirsty, breast milk will do the work. And then again with water, you find it's very easy to have contamination, and babies at that age are very susceptible to illness, and diarrhea for a baby can take them down very easily. So you want to avoid water, you want to avoid all those foods until at least 6 months of age. Yeah.
So still on the myths, I was reading about it, and I see that others think that the shape or size of the breast could affect milk supply. How true is that?
That's not true at all. What you just need to be, maybe sometimes with larger breasts, there's an advantage of some breastfeeding positions that are...
Some say that smaller breasts produce more milk.
No, that's not true. That's not true, because what is producing milk is not the fat tissue of the breast. It's more of the milk ducts that bring about the milk. Yeah.
So why are the faster 60 minutes important for exclusive breastfeeding for the baby?
Okay, so for the baby, you want to have that skin-to-skin contact with the mother immediately after delivery. And then in addition to that, you want to give the milk as soon as possible, because the milk that comes out in the first 3 days of breastfeeding is colostrum, which is very rich in antibodies. Antibodies are substances that help to boost the immunity of the baby, and this goes a long way in protecting against neonatal sepsis, which is infections in the newborn, which are a key cause of death in newborns. So in short, breastfeeding within the first hour helps to prevent neonatal sepsis and neonatal death. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, in addition to that, the mother has the benefit of, when you breastfeed, it helps to contract the uterus, and that can help to prevent hemorrhage or bleeding after delivery, because the breastfeeding act produces a hormone that helps to contract the uterus.
And that is the question that I actually wanted to ask, because if we are encouraging exclusive breastfeeding for the benefit of the baby, then how does it benefit the mother? Because we see, I was reading about it, that 40% of newborns miss out on exclusive breastfeeding in that critical first hour. Then how does it exclusively benefit the mother as well, aside from, of course, it expanding the uterus and it
contracting?
Or contracting, not expanding. It should not expand it.
Yeah, it should not be expanding.
So what are the benefits to the mother?
Okay, yeah, so the main one of the main ones is that it's a hormone called oxytocin, produced by the act of breastfeeding. So oxytocin is there's actually a medication that is similar to oxytocin that is injected into mothers as soon as they deliver, and that helps to shrink the uterus. The point being that when the uterus shrinks, you reduce the risk of bleeding and the amount of bleeding that naturally happens after delivery. Then aside from that, you want to already start stimulating breast milk production. The sooner you put the baby on and they have a very strong breastfeeding reflex at that moment, then you create that stimulation of breast milk, which of course will continue. The more you breastfeed, the more milk you produce. It's like a positive feedback mechanism. Yeah.
So the more you breastfeed, the more milk you produce.
Yeah.
How about the mothers who are not able to have that much milk supply?
Okay, so what happens is that you find, one, the thing that you need, what I guess private hospitals, I'm not very sure about public hospitals, are doing is having lactation consultants, where it's a policy in the hospital that once a woman delivers in the maternity wards, you find that there's a breastfeeding consultant or the nurses going around and teaching women how to initiate breastfeeding. And so that includes the method of breastfeeding, how the baby should latch onto the breast and how they should be positioned, because that goes a long way in stimulating breast milk production. You find sometimes one of the reasons that breast milk is not coming out is probably because the baby is latching on in the wrong position, and the mother is uncomfortable. If they're uncomfortable, they withdraw from breastfeeding, and so it's just a cycle of that ends up leading to the woman not producing enough milk. So one is a positioning technique and being taught how to latch. And then you find that if truly it's not happening, then there's some supplements that women are given. You can find some of them in pharmacies. And then there's also some medication that is given to help stimulate or increase breast milk production. Yeah.
How about the moms who, you know, feel a lot of pain while breastfeeding, those with sore nipples, breast engorgement or mastitis? Then how are they getting the help that they need to get to also just ensure that their babies are exclusively breastfeeding?
Yeah, again, that comes down to being taught on the technique. So one thing that we say is that breastfeeding is not the woman's job alone. She needs to be taught by nurses. She needs to be taught by lactational experts. And what they need to learn is how to place the baby properly on the breast to ensure the baby is holding on properly. Because if the baby is, ideally what you want the baby to do is have the full mouth on the breast, have the full mouth wide open, and the lips turned out so that they can latch onto the areola of the breast properly. If you find that maybe the baby is holding on only to the nipple, then that leads to those kinds of issues where the nipples become very sore. With time, they can become cracked. Then what happens is the mom now wants to withdraw because it's a response to the pain that they're feeling. They want to withdraw from breastfeeding and avoid putting the baby on the breast. But once you do that again, then the breast milk accumulates and the breasts become engorged. If they do become engorged, then there's a high likelihood of it turning into an infection, which we call mastitis. So then it becomes a cycle of, if the baby doesn't know how to latch on properly, you have the likelihood of sore nipples. Sore nipples lead to cracked nipples, then there's the likelihood of engorgement, mastitis, the mother withholds from breastfeeding the baby, and then it just becomes an uncomfortable situation for both the mother and the baby.
Let's break it down for a viewer. The mastitis, you know, what causes it exactly and how worse can it get if not looked into? Okay,
so again, the process is simply that the baby has not been latching on properly. Then the nipples become very sore or even cracked. That leads to the bacteria that tend to, the natural bacteria that we have that live on our skin get an entry point into the milk ducts, and that leads to the breast becoming infected. So mastitis is actually an infection of the breast. So how women know this is that they become the breasts are very red, sore, tender. They don't want to be touched. They want the baby near the breast. And with time, it actually leads to bodily symptoms like fevers, body aches, feeling really down because it's a bacterial infection. And so the women present feeling very ill and down because, again, it's an infection. And the only way to treat this is actually have them take antibiotics, teach them how to correct whatever the issue was, which was initially from the breastfeeding position and the latching on of the baby.
Could mastitis that is not treated early lead to maybe chronic disease, say something like breast cancer, for example?
No, I don't think there's a direct correlation between mastitis and breast cancer. But what is the risk is, of course, any untreated infection can become more and more severe with the days going by. But I think many women tend to be conscious of their breast at that time, and so it's a very painful process, so they'll present to hospital in good time. Yeah.
Walk us through the difference that comes, you know, when breastfeeding. Some say they have a very enjoyable experience while, you know, exclusively breastfeeding, while others say that, you know, they didn't enjoy that process at all, and they wouldn't want to go through that process again.
Yeah.
Then where does the difference come in? Why do some enjoy it, and why do some, you know, feel a lot of pain while breastfeeding?
Again, it's simply because of the latching on technique. So, but I keep saying latching on technique, and what this means is just how the baby's mouth is placed on the breast. There is a proper way to do it. If you find that the baby is, for example, just biting on the nipple, that's a very uncomfortable and painful position for the mother, because the nipple is very sensitive, and again, it's the pressure of the gums on the nipple. It's just really uncomfortable. Leads to the sore nipples. So having sore nipples daily, cracked nipples, you have to breastfeed your baby every 3-4 hours. It becomes a very unenjoyable experience for babies. But again, what hospitals are doing these days is, as soon as a mother delivers, you have within that first hour, as you spoke of earlier, is that there's a nurse who's going around teaching women how to hold on to the baby. And so within those few days after delivery, the first 3 days, the hospital's aim is to ensure that the mother lives there knowing how to place the baby on the breast. Yeah.
So if the baby is biting on the nipple, and is there any milk supply that the baby now is getting, or that's biting for the fun of it? No,
they may still get it. They're not biting for the fun of it. They're biting because you need to direct this newborn, you need to direct their mouth to hold on to the breast. Yes, they do have a nursing reflex, but the mother needs to guide the breast, hold on to the baby properly. There are different positions and techniques that a mother can employ when breastfeeding. But what you need to do is the mom needs to hold on to support the head, support the neck when breastfeeding, so that the baby can be directed onto the breast properly. Yeah.
How often should a newborn breastfeed?
Ideally between 2 to 4 hours, so roughly every 3 hours. So we're aiming for 8 feeds in 24 hours. This is because, especially for a newborn, you find that they may be taking as little as 30 mLs of milk, simply due to their size and their stomach size, and that's all they can take. So anyway, you need to keep up the breastfeeding. Yeah.
And now how can a mom know that the baby is getting enough milk? Because as we see, some are having trouble with you know, the milk supply.
Yeah.
So how do I know that my baby is getting enough milk supply?
Okay, so ideally sticking to that timeline that you keep conscious of the time. That every 3 hours you're feeding your baby. Again, babies will respond, and you'll find that when the baby is full, they'll stop. So you want to place a baby on the breast on demand, meaning if the baby cries, it's usually an indication most of the time that they want to feed, aside from, of course, diapers and all that. But you place them on the breast, let them feed for as long as possible. If you feel that they have not had sufficient milk, then you can also transfer them to the other breast so that they can also empty that as well. Again, you can do a diaper count where you're aiming to have 6 wet diapers in a day. Yeah, so that can be an indication that your baby is sufficiently fed.
I don't know if that would also mean that the mother is getting enough milk supply, or now how would I know that, okay, I have enough milk supply to sustain my baby, and that will take me for, you know, the 6 months that is recommended for exclusive breastfeeding?
Actually, most women have enough milk, because milk comes through, the more you put the baby on the breast, the more milk you get, because it's again a positive feedback mechanism, which by that I mean that the baby stimulates the production of a hormone that then lets down the milk. So the more you put the baby on the breast, the more milk we produce. And that's why you find that even when women go back to work, the the milk supply goes down, and that's simply because you're not putting the baby on the breast. Yeah.
But you know, we have moms who say that they don't have enough milk supply, and I'm interested to know what would cause that. That a mother, you know, is not producing enough milk supply. They go to the hospital, and then they're told that, you know, you now need to introduce other forms of feeding for your baby. Then what causes that? Why don't some mothers have enough milk supply?
One of the main reasons is stress. You find when a woman is stressed or has some kind of anxiety, which is very common after giving birth, because the birth process itself is is not an easy process.
It's traumatic.
It's traumatic. It's also joyful, but
it depends.
Yeah, it depends on the woman and also the support that she has, the social support that she has. So stress is a major contributor to milk going down. So for example, if they don't feel supported, if they feel alone, if they feel overwhelmed by the baby, for example, if the baby has colic and they're crying a lot and they feel that they're unable to, they're just overwhelmed by the whole process of delivery, having a newborn, feeling that they don't have adequate social support, then there's a likelihood of the milk going down. And that's where, again, we say that breastfeeding is not just the woman's job. You need a supportive community around you at that time.
Walk us through some of the challenges that you see breastfeeding moms are facing that would hinder them from getting to the 6 months mark. As you also tell us why it's important for mothers to exclusively breastfeed for 6 months.
Okay, so I'll start with why it's important for women to exclusively breastfeed. So within the first 6 months, the baby's gut, the digestive system, is not adequately developed to handle foods outside of breast milk. At the same time, breast milk has sufficient macro and micronutrients, by which I mean protein, fat, vitamins, minerals, that are sufficient for the developing baby between 0 to 6 months of age. And so within the first 6 months, you actually don't require anything else to feed the baby, not even water to quench their thirst. And then within the 6 months, again, they don't have the kind of reflexes like swallowing, properly swallowing food. So you don't want to risk that. Their digestive systems are not able to handle food that is prepared outside because of, again, the risk of contamination, which can easily bring them down. Then your other question was
the challenges that breastfeeding moms experience.
Okay, so again, we have those social cultural beliefs that we said that can interfere with the mother's perception of why breastfeeding at until 6 months is appropriate. Then we have in the modern age, or maybe for working mothers, you find that going back to work can reduce the stimulation of breast milk production, which comes from feeding the baby. So being away from home then presents a challenge such that the milk production goes down once you are back to work. Yeah.
Speaking of that, breastfeeding moms who are working, of course, so what provisions do you think should be strengthened for them, especially those who are exclusive breastfeeding? I know maternity leave is just for 3 months. Then what provisions should now be strengthened for them to feel supported at work?
Okay, so so there are things that you can do in your own home as a mother, and then there are things that the workplace can do for you. So one of the things that workplaces can do is allow the mother an easier transition into work, a slower, so to speak, transition into work, where they are not going back full time, maybe not the usual 8 hours a day. You find that some workplaces may actually allow a woman to have less hours at work in the remaining 3 months. So you've been on maternity for 3 months and you still have 3 months of exclusive breastfeeding left. So the workplace can provide you with shorter shifts at work. For those who do night shifts, the workplace can allow you to just work during the day and avoid night shifts, and so that you're home with your baby and breastfeeding them at night. Then another thing is, one of the most important things, that because you're now away from the baby and you're not having the baby on the breast, what you do is express the breast milk. And what workplaces can do is provide a clean environment, clean private environment where a woman can breastfeed, can express their milk and and have it, you know, taken to the baby back home. So then ideally, I don't know if Kenyan companies are doing daycare centers, or what do you call them, like rooms where they can have their babies come and be there during the day.
Yeah.
But if not possible, and let's say you live very close to work, what an employer can do is allow you at least some time to go home and breastfeed the baby and then come back to work. Again, if not possible, we have mechanisms of expressing breast milk, knowing how to do so, storing it properly so that you ensure that the safety standard is maintained for the baby. Then at home, what a mother can do is, within the 3 months of maternity leave, try to organize their home by having a reliable caregiver. That may be a nanny or a relative who will be taking care of the baby when you transition back to work. And even within the 3 months that they are on maternity leave, they could begin storing breast milk, expressing when at home and keeping a stash of breast milk. I think it lets the woman have peace of mind when going back to work, knowing that there's a stash of breast milk. Again, if this is a baby who's feeding every 2 to 3 hours, that means you need a lot of milk even when you're away from home. And you may not be able to express the full amount required for the next day. So within the last few weeks before you go back to work, you can start expressing milk, storing it in the freezer, and then teaching your nanny or whoever will be giving care on how to prepare the stored milk and feed it to the baby. Yeah.
These rooms that you're talking about at work that would be or would act as daycare centers for breastfeeding moms, who would take care of the babies? Is it the mom, or do they come with
they'd have to have the nanny, I think, accompany them. I really don't know how it's working in Kenya. I think there are some places where you may be allowed to come with the baby, to come with a nanny who will be with the baby during the work hours, and all you're doing maybe is popping in at some point to breastfeed the baby. Yeah.
When you say less working hours, I'm thinking about it. How long would you recommend? Because working hours, 8 hours, right?
Yeah.
So how long would you recommend that workplaces should adopt for breastfeeding moms?
I think that's a difficult question.
Now that's a view. Carry your personal opinion on this.
Okay. Because you want to have the mom as near the baby as possible.
Yeah.
So if you could allow her to be away for maybe 6 hours of work, that means 2 feeds away from work. I think that would be sufficient, but that's just a thought. A thought, in my opinion.
You're thinking out loud. Yeah. But I'm also thinking about the stashed milk. How long should it be stored for it to be safe? Can it go for, say, a month? You know, I watch videos of moms who have a lot of milk.
Yeah.
Some even donate them.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about people who have that much amount of milk, but they do not contribute. Then what is the recommended time for this expressed milk to stay in the fridge? Yeah.
Okay, so milk can be stored either in the freezer or in the fridge. So if you're storing it in the freezer, then you can frozen milk can be kept for 6 months actually. Sometimes even up to 12 months, but not recommended. So it can keep for 6 months. But then you want to be conscious of the times when, for example, you don't have electricity and the milk has thawed, and then you have to ideally not refreeze it. We don't want to refreeze milk because that leads to just a process of encouraging bacterial growth. So in a state where your freezer is always working, then you can keep it for up to 6 months. You want to keep it at the back of the freezer where you're not opening the freezer a lot and allowing some warm air in. Similar to the fridge, you can keep milk for 3 to 5 days maximum. And again, you want to keep the milk at the back of the fridge where it's coldest, not at the door where you open and then the warm air is let in, and that again encourages bacterial growth. Yeah, again, ideally store milk in small amounts so that you're not having to, for example, in the freezer, not having to remove, a 1 liter bottle and thaw it all in order to give maybe 150 mLs to your baby. So ideally, there are some storage bags that have standardized amounts that are enough for 1 feed. So those are good enough for you to store a sufficient amount, and then all you do is ensure you label the milk with the date that you produce the milk. Some even allow you to write the time of expression of the milk.
Yeah.
And then what the caregiver needs to do is just remove one bag at a time, thaw it, and give the milk to the baby. In the fridge, again, 3 days maximum. If a baby feeds on some amount and leaves some amount, the maximum it should stay is 2 hours after the amount that's left over should just stay for a maximum of 2 hours to keep the cleanliness as best as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do a mom know that this milk is bad? Aside from you saying that it should not stay outside for 2 hours, because I'm seeing fresh milk. For if you want to know it's gone bad, you pour some water and then you see how it behaves when it's boiling.
Yeah.
But now, how do we know that this breast milk is actually not safe for the baby?
Okay, so again, with the mom, you need to be very conscious of storing breast milk. It will have some strange separation and particles when you thaw it.
Just like fresh milk.
Yeah. So there's a way that, for example, milk should be. You want to be very conscious of the time that you put the milk in, and labeling goes a long way in helping to maintain those safety standards. So if you know that the milk has been there for 3 days, or it's milk that has been fed and left over, and then you've put it back, and then again, I mean, that process, you should be very conscious of that and avoid doing that, because then there's going to be some contamination along the way. Yeah.
Talk to us about donated milk. How safe is it to consume for a baby, to consume milk from another mom, not the actual mom, but milk that has been donated to the baby? How safe is that? So
it tends to be similar. Milk is similar to, from one mother to another, milk is similar. I think what's the problem with that is just that it curtails the bonding that you can do with your own baby when you breastfeed your own baby. Otherwise, I'm also not sure about how women in Kenya, if we're adopting that practice of donated milk, but a wet nurse is allowed in many other countries. Yeah.
At what point should now a mom introduce bottle feeding formula, and also walk us through the biology of breast milk that maybe you'd say formula would not replicate at any point?
So actually with formula, they try as much as possible to balance out with what milk has, breast milk has naturally. What would be not recommended is, women in low resource settings may turn to cow's milk and things like that, which actually is inferior to the formula milk. There's no need to introduce formula milk if you have enough breast milk. And if you're going back to work and expressing, there's no need to use the formula milk. Once you start feeding them again at 6 months, the complementary feeding, then breast milk will be providing ideally 50% of what the baby requires, and they're getting the rest from the food. So again, most of the times, formula milk is the last resort for women who have been completely unable to initiate breastfeeding.
Yeah. What are the dangers of cow milk?
One of them is just the allergic reactions in some children. Some are unable to tolerate cow's milk because of the protein that's contained there. And then again, there's a lack of balance with breast milk. For example, provision of iron that comes from breast milk naturally. Yeah. So
adults who maybe suffer from low iron, does it mean that they didn't get enough breast milk?
No, I don't think it doesn't go that far into adulthood. Yeah. That may just be your diet as an adult, not necessarily breastfeeding as a baby.
Right. I was reading somewhere that exclusive breastfeeding also help prevent chronic diseases, especially for the baby, like obesity, type 2 diabetes, things like asthma. How true is that?
Yeah, that's true, because again, breast milk is naturally balanced in the nutrients that it provides. So you find that if you were to start, for example, taking porridge early on, a baby starts porridge early on, then you're providing just starches, or you find people may want to just give fruits, which is really not balanced, and then there's a lot of sugars that are introduced into the baby's diet at a very young age, and leading to the likelihood of obesity. So the good thing with breast milk is the balanced nature of the contents of breast milk. Yeah.
You know, when you say that when moms, of course, give birth, especially in private hospitals, then they're taught how to breastfeed, how to latch the baby properly. But then I saw some statistics that once moms, you know, leave the hospitals, then there's a decline. And, you know, exclusive breastfeeding. Then why is there that decline when they're properly taught how to latch and how to breastfeed?
I think as with any kind of knowledge, it may need to be repeated. And ideally, even with the visits, when you have the initial visits back to the hospital for vaccination, for weight checking, then there needs to be at least a repetition of how to breastfeed properly. I think another thing that can go a long way is having, for example, the mother's partner be present when the mother is being taught the breastfeeding techniques, and then just supporting the mom on that. Yeah.
So holding the bottle, you know, say once the mom has introduced bottle feeding, how you hold the baby, you know, when latching, is it the same way you hold the baby when also introducing the bottle?
So with the bottle, you want the baby to be in a certain position just to prevent there's choking, and there's also just accumulation of swallowing a lot of air, which leads to discomfort with the baby. Then the good thing is you find some companies are producing teats which allow for easy transition from the breast to bottle, and those teats kind of simulate the nipple, and then they allow the baby they prevent the baby rather from swallowing a lot of air, which then makes them very uncomfortable and crying a lot because of being very gaseous. Yeah.
I'm thinking of those babies that are breastfed even up to 2 years mark. Then what happens to them? Does it affect them in any way? Because I'm seeing, you know, 6 months mark. Then you continue for like even 3 years. I've seen kids who are breastfed for 3 years.
Yeah.
So what does that do to the general development of that baby?
So what is recommended, again, is the exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months, but you don't stop once 6 months is up. The recommendation is that you continue up to 2 years of age and beyond if you'd like. And what you're doing between the 6 months and 2 year mark of age is complementary feeding, not pure feeding and leaving the breast alone. So breast milk at that moment is still important for brain development. Again, in the first 6 months, it's very key for developing the immunity because it contains a lot of immune factors that boost the baby's immunity. Yeah.
So alternative feeding for moms who cannot, you know, breastfeed medically, what option do you have for them?
So there's those supplements that some women are given, and then there's some drugs that are given that kind of mimic a hormone called prolactin. They stimulate that process of stimulating breast milk. It's a drug it's commonly given. It's called domperidone. You find that sometimes women will be given that to stimulate their milk production. Yeah.
So you know, somebody said, does breastfeeding ruin a mother's body?
Okay, I think there's a belief that it kind of maybe the breast loses its tightness. Let's say that. Then I think every woman has a different experience, and then there's also different women also have different experiences. Some women add a lot of weight during the breastfeeding journey because they have a lot of energy demands since they're also feeding the baby, and you find that they may also consume a lot more food, and I guess you could say that it can ruin their body by them adding weight. But I think it's not something to be very worried about, because the breastfeeding is only for a short duration, and then you can easily transition back into...
You can get back on track.
Yeah, you can get back on track.
Are there moms that are not advised that they breastfeed their baby? And at what point do you advise moms not to breastfeed?
It mostly is for women who probably may be HIV positive, and it's not controlled, meaning it's not under treatment. In that case, then you want to avoid breastfeeding. Yeah. So
what options are available for, you know, that cadre of women?
Okay, so these are the kind of women then where you allow the formula milk to be given. Formula milk, again, it's a milk that is actually, they try to balance it as much and match it as close as possible to the kind of nutrients that are found in breast milk. Yeah.
I'm thinking about moms who are in rural areas who live below $1 a day, and you know, they're new moms, they're low of milk, and then maybe they're in this category of moms who are HIV positive, and maybe they cannot actually breastfeed as at yet. Then what happens to, you know, this kind of moms?
Then in that case, you may find that animal milk will be allowed. Slow introduction of some of these foods early on will be allowed. It's not ideal, but may be allowed in those cases. Yeah.
Let's go back to the point of expressed milk and how it's stored, you know, in the fridge. I'm thinking about how it should be administered. You know, once you take it out of the fridge, then how do you prepare it for, you know, feeding the baby now?
Okay, so so if it was milk that was in the fridge, then you want to you want to warm it up a bit, and just slightly. So what you do is place it in a warm water bath, and then within a few minutes, then you can feed the baby. Then again, for milk that has been in the freezer, what you do is you can, for example, if you're anticipating that you need the milk in the freezer tomorrow, the next day that is, then you remove it from the freezer and store it in the fridge overnight to allow it to slowly thaw. Then again, once you are ready to feed, just put it in a warm water bath and feed the baby. So what you have to avoid is directly heating the milk, like the way you'd boil cow's milk, for example, on the stove. You should not do that with breast milk, because it destroys the nutrients. And again, you may not be able to regulate the temperature that is required for the baby. Also avoid microwave heating. So yeah, so what you do is use a warm water bath. There are some bottle warmer gadgets that are also used. There's some bottle warmer gadgets that are also used, which will allow for appropriate feeding. Actually, breast milk just needs to be at room temperature. You don't need it to be very hot the way an adult would take it. Yeah.
I'm thinking about C-section moms and how different they are from, okay, giving birth is giving birth.
Yeah.
But in terms of production of milk, how different are, you know, women who give birth via C-section and women who give birth vaginally? Is there a difference in terms of milk supply?
Well, the milk supply will still be the same. You find that maybe because of the stress of a C-section, a woman maybe the stress, again, as we said, can suppress breast milk production. It's just a play of stress and hormones in the body that will then result in breast milk not being sufficient. Then with CS, the other thing is that the discomfort of holding the baby, the weight of the baby on the tummy may make the mom want to avoid breastfeeding. Again, that leads to the cycle of the less you breastfeed, the less milk you have. But what you do in such cases is teach women techniques that can allow them to hold the baby's weight even away from the scar, the tummy, just to avoid placing that weight that makes the mom really uncomfortable. But otherwise, initiation of breast milk should still happen, whether CS or vaginal birth. Yeah.
During the first critical hour, the 60 minutes, do moms who give birth by C-section get the opportunity to do that?
it will be possible if someone is supporting them to place the baby near the breast, because they are still under some anesthesia and may not be able to position themselves properly. Then they just need someone to hold the baby close to them, or put the baby lying on their side, put the baby near the breast, and still they can initiate breastfeeding. Yeah.
So are there foods that would improve the amount of milk for the mom?
I think that's also like a cultural, you know, every culture will tell you,
eat this,
eat that. But a balanced diet will produce, will allow you to produce enough milk. Yeah, so you don't really need to change much. Drink a lot of fluids, of course, because you may feel dehydrated with the production of breast milk. Yeah.
Are there foods that are not recommended that the mom take when they're exclusively breastfeeding?
Not really. Well, maybe foods in pregnancy, but not really in lactation. You find that the production of breast milk is the same regardless of the diet. But this is not to say that a woman should not be cautious of their diet, because they still have a lot of energy demands. So just a balanced diet, vegetables, protein, a lot of energy producing foods. Yeah.
You know, I've seen videos where babies are having some sort of rashes in their skin, and then there's a way they're reacting to, you know, something else that maybe it's not known, and then people would say that is because of something that you're eating as a mom.
Yeah.
Then is that a myth?
To be honest, I think that different moms have different experiences. You may find that some people think it's a reaction to something in the breast milk, but it often isn't. There's no general rule that you can say women should avoid these things. All women should avoid these things because then the baby will have this kind of reaction. What is more likely is when you start complementary feeding, and then you may notice that if you give the baby certain protein, then they may react to that and have skin rashes. But again, that's also different from baby to baby. Yeah.
So there are instances where a baby would react to maybe the mom's breast milk?
No,
nothing like that happens?
Nothing like that, yeah, nothing like that.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this year's theme, and they say that breastfeeding for a sustainable start in life, strengthening what works. So the global focus is on strengthening what works. And from your own vantage point, what would you say is working as far as encouraging exclusive breastfeeding is concerned?
So it would be mainly the same things that we've said, that teaching goes a long way in breastfeeding. I think there's an assumption that maybe just because you've given birth, you should just kind of know automatically, and because the baby has a reflex of breastfeeding. For sure, if you put the baby on the breast, they'll feed. But the thing is the correct positioning, the correct latching. Knowledge, moms need to be aware that breastfeeding has benefits and is sufficient for the first 6 months. Again, another thing that goes a long way is supporting working mothers by teaching them on expressing milk and how to store the milk. Them also teaching their caregivers, whomever they leave in charge of the baby, to feed the baby appropriately. All this go a long way in sustaining that 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding. Yeah.
You know, when you talk about working moms, I do realize that we've focused so much on the corporate moms. But how about business moms, you know, people who still have to go to the market just to put something in their stalls, people who have to go to get combined, arrange one or twos, then how do we create environments that, you know, is also positive and sustainable for this kind of moms?
Yeah, I think that may be tough, but there's the option of pumping manually. If you may not, for example, in the market maybe have an electric source, there's an option of a manual pump. But what needs to be provided is a safe storage container, cleanliness, ensuring that the mother's hands are clean when they begin the pumping, the expression of milk, and then storing it appropriately. So milk can be stored in room temperature up to 8 hours. And so what they can do then is ensure that they feed the baby that milk as soon as possible when they get home, within at least that 8-hour mark. And again, then before you leave the house, a mom should try their best to feed the baby and empty the breast. As close to, for example, if you're leaving the house at 7, try to feed them at around 6:30. Then as soon as you get back home, feed them again immediately, just to sustain that breast milk production. Yeah. I'd
love to understand how manual pumping works, because you know, I've seen this where moms are told, you know, put a hot towel on top of the breast, and then there's a way that they're shown how to, you know, just press on the breast to remove milk, right?
Yeah.
So how does manual pumping work?
Okay, so again, it's literally pressing on the breast to
just like what I'm saying.
Yeah, and ensuring you have a clean container. It's very tedious if you compare it to the fact that electric pumps are so much easier to use. Then if you're not able to get the electric pump, there's some pumps where you are hands-free. It kind of creates a vacuum seal. It's like a silicone pump that the woman can place on the breast. Doesn't need electricity, but they kind of create a vacuum, and then that mechanism just allows the milk to flow out. As we wind up this conversation, I'd love for you to speak to moms who are, you know, breastfeeding, but they're having trouble doing so. You know, they're questioning themselves if at all they're producing enough milk, if at all they're giving the baby enough that they need. What would you say to them this morning? I'd say to them that not to worry, because most women do produce enough milk. Again, the baby, don't think of the baby as an adult. You may find a baby just requires a small amount, those 30 ml that we are saying. As they grow, of course, they require maybe 100, 150 mls. But that is sufficient. In fact, even one breast could produce that amount. And if you feel that the baby is not full, then transfer them to the next breast. Remember again that you're doing this every 3 hours. So the more you feed the baby, the more milk you will let down. And so the thing is to avoid the stress of thinking that you're not providing enough milk. And also asking for help from whoever is around. If, for example, it's lack of sleep or extreme exhaustion, having someone who can take over and have the baby, you breastfeed and then give over the baby to someone else. Yeah. And how can we, you know, as colleagues, you know, partners, help, you know, the moms, breastfeeding moms? Yeah, so for partners, again, try to hold the baby as much as possible, be with the baby as much as possible whenever the mom is not breastfeeding. Help them with things that the mom doesn't have to do. The mom has to breastfeed, and only her, but you can change the diaper, you can put the baby to sleep, you can burp the baby, you can provide things like the pumps, you can provide a nanny who will help the mother take care of the baby. At work, the colleagues can just allow you a few minutes to go and express milk, allow you to have a private room where you can express milk uninterrupted, and then get back to work. All right, great. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. for making time for us to have this conversation. We do appreciate you. Yeah, it's World Breastfeeding Week, and today is the 6th day. It culminates tomorrow on the 7th. So thank you so much, Dr. Saranjoy Maitho. She's a general practitioner speaking to us this morning about World Breastfeeding Week, which is observed every year to raise awareness about the importance of breastfeeding for the health and well-being of both babies and mothers. You're watching TV47 Breakfast. We're not yet done. Freddy is coming back with a conversation on Man-to-Man Talk. They're talking about the silent pressure of being a provider. So do stay right here for that conversation and interact with us on X, TV47 Digital, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube. Use the hashtag TV47 Breakfast, hashtag Story Here too if you are contributing on X. My name is Annie Odida. Good morning.